My fiancée said prenups were offensive and she'd leave if I brought it up again. I agreed, then brought it up again. In court during our breakup. I brought it up again in court during the separation. I, a 32-year-old man, was engaged to Rachel, 29. We'd been a couple for 2 years, sharing my apartment for the past year. On the surface, everything seemed fine. Rachel had a way of brightening any room, charismatic, quick-witted, and stunning. We appeared to be a perfect match, but I've learned that a foundation can seem sturdy right up until the moment it shatters. Some necessary background. 3 years ago, before I met Rachel, I co-founded a software startup that was acquired. That event completely transformed my financial situation. I don't flaunt it. My life is comfortable, not excessive. I drive a dependable car, and my main indulgence is a modest but expanding collection of vintage watches. Most of the proceeds from the sale are held in carefully managed long-term investments. This is the bedrock of my future. When I proposed 6 months ago, my feelings were genuine. I envisioned a life with her. However, I am by nature and profession a pragmatist. Building that company demanded foresight and risk management, and I approach my life no differently. Safeguarding my assets isn't about a lack of affection. It's about a deep sense of responsibility to my family, my former colleagues, and our potential children. So, about a month ago, I introduced the idea of a prenuptial agreement. I picked the moment carefully, a calm evening at home. I had prepared her favorite risotto. I waited until our plates were cleared and we were relaxed. Rachel, I began, keeping my voice soft. As we're getting further into wedding planning, I believe it's time we talked about a prenup. The shift was immediate. It was as if a switch had been flicked, plunging the warm room into an icy silence. "A prenup?" she said, setting her wine glass down with a sharp sound. "Samuel, why?" "It's not personal," I explained, trying to keep the conversation on course. "It's simply sound financial practice. My assets from before our marriage are complex. A prenup would just draw a clear distinction between what's mine, what's yours, and what becomes ours once we're married. Everything we build together from this point onward will be shared. This merely keeps the older things separate." She stood, pushing her chair back. "No, it separates you from me. It suggests you don't trust me, that you view me as just another asset to manage." "That's not it at all," I replied. "It's about preventing future complications for both of us." Her eyes, usually so warm, were now narrowed and sharp. "This is an insult. You're entering a marriage with an exit strategy. It's the most cynical thing I've ever heard." Then she delivered her final declaration, her voice low and absolute. "I'm going to say this once. If you ever mention a prenup again, I will walk out that door and I will not come back. We are building a life on love and trust, not a legal document designed to protect your millions." End of discussion. I looked at her. I saw the firm boundary she had established. I heard the warning, and I processed it not as an emotional outburst, but as a condition of a contract she had just laid out for her departure. In that quiet moment, I made my decision. "Fair," I said. That single word seemed to diffuse her anger. She interpreted it as my surrender. Her shoulders relaxed, and she came to embrace me. "Thank you for trusting me," she whispered. "I love you. That's all the security we need." I hugged her back, but the choice was already fixed in my mind. She told me what would make her leave. I decided to grant her wish, just not in the way she anticipated. I haven't brought up the prenup since. The wedding preparations have continued, and her parents, Gregory and Catherine, have become increasingly involved, their conversations casually referencing my finances. I used to see it as harmless. Now I perceive it as due diligence on their investment. I have a meeting with my lawyer next week, not to plan a marriage, but to strategize a dissolution. Update 1. 3 weeks later. The situation has progressed. My meeting with my lawyer, Deborah, confirmed my chosen path was the correct one. I explained the ultimatum, my decision, and my concerns about the inevitable fallout. Her advice was direct. Prepare for a battle and document everything. People who feel entitled to your money don't just leave quietly. She was right. The entitlement, once a subtle undercurrent, became a powerful wave after our discussion. It was as if defeating the prenup had been a green light. The spending began. First, the supplementary credit card I'd given her for household expenses suddenly saw extensive use at designer boutiques, a $4,000 handbag here, a spa weekend with her mother to de-stress from wedding planning there. I didn't confront her. I simply paid the balance, reported the card as potentially compromised to the bank, and had it canceled. I informed her a new one was on its way. It wasn't. Her parents, Gregory and Catherine, then made their move. They invited me to their country. Club for dinner, an obvious setup. "Samuel," Gregory began, all fake camaraderie and expensive brandy. "Catherine and I have been looking at some properties for you two. A marvelous place in the estate section of town, perfect for raising a family." He slid a glossy real estate brochure across the table. The asking price was outrageous. "It's a beautiful house, but we're a long way from that," I said politely. Catherine's laugh was like ice cubes clinking in a glass. "Don't be so modest, Samuel. You have to put that money to work. It's an investment in the family, our family." The possessiveness was stifling. They weren't just joining my family, they were orchestrating a takeover. The true breaking point, however, was the watch. For my 30th birthday, my grandfather gave me his 1968 Patek Philippe Calatrava. It's my most cherished possession, an artifact of my family's heritage. Rachel adored it. Last year, I let her wear it to a gala. A few weeks ago, she asked to borrow it for a charity function. I agreed. She never returned it to my watch box. 2 days ago, I made the request. "Hey, I need my grandfather's watch back. I want to take it in for a service." She was at her vanity, applying lipstick. She met my eyes in the mirror, a slight smirk playing on her lips. "Don't be silly. It looks better on me. Just think of it as mine now, part of the package." My voice remained steady. "Rachel, it's not a fashion accessory. It's a family heirloom. It's not a gift. I need it back." She turned around fully, her expression hardening. "Samuel, stop with the yours and mine thinking. What's yours is mine. That's marriage. It's ours now, and it's staying with me." That was the final confirmation. My property wasn't just being used, it was being appropriated. So, yesterday, I put the plan into action. I transferred the majority of my liquid assets into new accounts. I changed every password. I documented every step with Deborah. Then I sat Rachel down. "Rachel," I said, my voice calm and conclusive. "This isn't working. The engagement is over." Her face cycled through shock, disbelief, and then a cold, calculating fury. "You're breaking up with me because of the prenup? After we agreed?" "You gave me an ultimatum," I replied evenly. "You set the terms for your exit. I'm just respecting your wishes." She went from furious to glacial in a second. "You have no idea what you've just done, Samuel. You will regret this." She immediately called her father. I could hear his enraged, muffled voice from across the room. She packed an overnight bag, mostly with items I'd purchased for her, and left. This morning, the first email from her lawyer arrived. He's a senior partner at a firm known for turning divorces into brutal conflicts. They're coming, but they're going to discover that while I am a reserved man, I am not a weak one. And the first item on my lawyer's agenda is a formal demand for the return of my watch. Update 2. 1 month later. It's been a month of calculated conflict. The Vans' initial move was a demand letter that was a masterpiece of bold fiction. Their lawyer, a shark named Mr. Patrick, isn't foolish. His strategy isn't based on easily disproven falsehoods, but on distorting facts and leveraging the threat of a prolonged, public, and costly battle. They aren't claiming half my net worth. They're more clever than that. They're demanding a substantial settlement in recognition of Rachel's sacrifices and contributions to the marital partnership. This includes career sacrifice, claiming she put her event planning career on hold to support my demanding lifestyle and social obligations, equitable interest in the home, arguing that for the years she lived in my apartment, her unpaid labor as a household manager and decorator created equitable interest for which she should be bought out to the tune of $250,000. Facilitating business. This was their big play. They claim a specific successful angel investment I made was the direct result of a dinner party Rachel hosted where she shrewdly and intentionally introduced me to a key investor. They aren't saying she had the idea, but that she created the opportunity. lifestyle maintenance and emotional distress. A lump sum of $1.5 million to allow her to maintain the lifestyle she has become accustomed to, and for the emotional trauma of a broken promise. And of course, the Patek Philippe is listed as a gift, symbolizing the promise of marriage, and is therefore her property. The smear campaign began subtly. Posts from Catherine about the emptiness of new money, and Gregory mentioning to mutual acquaintances how disappointed he was that my character wasn't as strong as my portfolio. This has been trying, I won't lie. There was a night last week where I was awake until 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of it all. It felt like an assault from all directions. For a fleeting moment, I understood why people settle. The thought of just writing a check to make it all disappear was appealing. It felt like my life had been turned into a hostile takeover bid. I called Deborah the next day, feeling defeated. "Maybe we should just make them an offer," I said. "Let me ask you something, Samuel," she said, her voice firm. "The investment they're talking about, the dinner party, what's the real story?" "The dinner happened," I admitted. She did introduce me to the guy, but the groundwork for the deal was already laid. I had been in talks with his company for weeks. The dinner was just a social gathering, a formality. "Can you prove it?" she asked. I spent the next 2 hours digging through old emails, and I found it. A chain of emails between myself and the investor outlining the principles of the deal. The final email where we agreed to move forward was dated 1 full week before Rachel's dinner party. My moment of despair vanished, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. But Deborah pointed out a weakness. They can still argue the dinner solidified the deal. It's a gray area they'll try to exploit. They're trying to build a narrative of contribution, no matter how flimsy. So we crafted our counteroffensive. We didn't just deny their claims, we undermined them and created our own leverage. For her, household management, we compiled invoices from the weekly cleaning service and the interior decorator I hired before she moved in. For her career sacrifice, we pulled her social media, which was filled with posts from the last year about exciting new projects and embracing the grind. And for the watch, we escalated. Deborah sent a formal letter to Mr. Patrick demanding the immediate return of the timepiece. When they replied that it was a gift, we moved to the next step. Deborah filed a writ of replevin, a formal civil action to force the return of unlawfully held property. It's not a criminal complaint, but it's a separate, expensive legal battle that Rachel would have to fight, and one she would almost certainly lose. They've rejected our counteroffer, which was for her to take her belongings and leave, and pushed for mediation. They think they can intimidate me in person. The date is set for next Tuesday. They believe their case has just enough plausibility to make me pay. They're about to find out how badly they've miscalculated. Final update. 1 week later. It's finished. I'm in my apartment. It's quiet except for the soft ticking of a 1968 Patek Philippe Calatrava sitting on the desk beside me. The weight of it feels different now, not just a link to my past, but a symbol of a future I just secured. The mediation yesterday was like a play where only half the cast knew the outcome. We were in a plain conference room, Deborah and I on one side, Rachel, her parents, and their lawyer Mr. Patrick on the other. Rachel wore an ensemble that likely cost more than my first car, a portrayal of wronged opulence. Gregory sat like a scowling bulldog, all simmering anger. Catherine embodied tragic motherhood. Mr. Patrick began by constructing a narrative of my fiancée's broken heart and shattered promises. He spoke of her unwavering support, her crucial social contributions, and the equitable partnership she believed she was building. He painted me as a cold manipulator who exploited her affection and then discarded her at the first hint of fairness. He presented their reasonable demands as a way for me to do the right thing. When he finished, Deborah let the silence linger for a moment. Then, she opened her file. "Mr. Patrick," she began, her voice calm and distinct, "my client is indeed here to honor a promise, the one Miss Rachel Vaughn made to him." She looked directly at Rachel. "On the evening of April 28th, you told my client, if you ever mention a prenup again, I will walk out that door, and I will not come back. You presented this as a non-negotiable term of your relationship. My client has simply chosen to accept your terms. The topic was raised again in your legal filings, and so we are here to facilitate your departure, as you requested. The color drained from Catherine's face. Gregory's jaw tightened. Deborah then addressed the claims point by meticulous point. She systematically dismantled their narrative. She presented the invoices from the cleaners and decorator, making the $250,000 household manager claim seem ludicrous. She displayed screenshots of Rachel's own social media posts, boasting about her career achievements during the time she was supposedly sacrificing it. Then she addressed the linchpin of their financial claim: the dinner party. We don't dispute that Ms. Rachel Vaughn hosted a lovely dinner, Deborah conceded, which made Mr. Patrick sit up straighter. However, she continued, sliding a folder across the table, this is a printed chain of emails between my client and the investor in question. As you can see from the timestamps, an in-principle agreement was reached a full 7 days prior to the dinner party your client hosted. The dinner was a social pleasantry, not a business catalyst. Her contribution was that of a gracious hostess, for which my client was, and remains, thankful. The value of that contribution, however, is not $1.5 million. Mr. Patrick's face became rigid as he read the emails. He knew he'd lost his main leverage, but Deborah wasn't finished. She saved the watch for last. Finally, there is the matter of the Patek Philippe, she said. It was a gift, Rachel insisted, her voice cracking. We disagree, Deborah said flatly. She then slid another document across the table. It wasn't a police report. It was something far more effective. This, she said, is a filed copy of the writ of replevin we initiated to secure the return of my client's property. It is now a formal court matter. As you know, Mr. Patrick, ignoring a court order to return property can result in charges of civil contempt. But it gets more complicated. She leaned forward slightly. My client's assets, including this specific watch, are covered by a high-value insurance policy. The policy requires him to cooperate fully in the recovery of any lost or stolen items. By filing this writ, we have fulfilled our obligation. If your client refuses to comply with the court order, we will proceed with an insurance claim, and then the insurer's legal department, with their essentially unlimited resources, will exercise their right of subrogation. They will come after Miss Rachel Vaughn not just for the value of the watch, but for all associated legal fees. I can assure you, their lawyers are much more aggressive and much less pleasant to deal with than I am. The checkmate wasn't a threat of jail. It was the threat of financial ruin at the hands of a corporate giant. Gregory, the supposed titan of business, understood immediately. He looked at his daughter with utter fury, not for what she did, but for how badly she had failed. He was staring at a bottomless pit of legal expenses. Mr. Patrick held up a hand. Can we have a moment? They left. The yelling that came through the door this time was not muffled. It was raw and desperate. 20 minutes later, they returned, defeated. My clients withdraw all financial claims, Mr. Patrick said, his voice devoid of all its earlier boldness. Miss Rachel Vaughn will return the watch and retrieve her personal belongings by Friday. And that was it. Rachel had the watch delivered by courier this morning. She's moving her things out tomorrow. I don't feel triumphant. I just feel a profound sense of relief. The quiet in my apartment feels earned. They didn't want a marriage based on love. They wanted a merger. And when I refused to sign their contract, they tried to stage a hostile takeover. They learned today that I will always protect my investments, especially the ones that have nothing to do with money.